Hi guys, and welcome to Reality with T. So I'm going to review Tamar Get Your Life, and I had a whole bunch of notes and I can't find them. So maybe that's a good thing. So I saw it a few days ago, so I'm just going to review some of the things I can remember off the top of my head. So let's get started. So I'm thinking about overall, when I'm looking at this show, I'm thinking like, why is she doing this? Because this isn't a good look for her. She seems so disorganized, so anxious, so unable, just undisciplined. It's almost like I don't want to see this side of her. You know what I mean? I also don't like the way reality shows now, like even on 90 Day Fiance, when they do the reunion shows and such, we see so much of the production part of it. And that, to me, I lose interest because it's like I guess they want to show us how real it is. Like, this is what we have to go through to get her to speak to us. This is what we had to go through when we showed up at the house and blah, blah, blah. But it's almost like, okay, it isn't really a show. Like, you're teaching me what you have to go through to produce the show. And I don't know, it kind of turns me off. But either way, we start off the episode with her, with us seeing the producers say, oh, we got a call from her lawyer, and basically they're telling everybody, all the crew and staff, to leave the premises. They showed up, the house was empty, they need to leave the premises immediately and take all their stuff. And then they said something about she's sick, so they had a doctor's note that she couldn't work. So they're already annoyed. And it's like, here we go again, Tamar, with the drama. And also, remember, Tamar, you had a meeting with Mona saying that you weren't going to run. You were in this. You were going to let everybody in and not do all the dramatics. And then here we are again with the dramatics. So you can't really say, everybody thinks I'm so dramatic. I don't want to fight. I don't want to do this. But you're also, this is just unprofessional. You know what I mean? And it's ridiculous, and it kind of sucks that these folks have signed up to do this with you. Granted, they're getting paid, but it's just like, why do I have to jump through hoops in order to get your story told? Like, if you have things you want to say. But then I also remember, her career isn't where it needs to be. She's not Tony status. That's what she wants. You know what I mean? She wants to be Beyonce, Mariah Carey, Tony, everybody, but she's not there. So she needs to do a reality show to keep a steady paycheck. So, I mean, I guess it's just something that she thought of, like, what can I do to kind of keep the interest? But the whole premise of it, of like, let me show the fans what I have to go through to get, I don't know if it's like to get back on top or what, you know what I mean? It's supposed to be like, I lost everything. I lost my family, my job, my husband, my da-da-da-da. And then, we just don't see her getting back to where she was. I don't know. It's just a weird showing of what's going on with her. And I feel like she didn't need to do it. All right. Either way, so she wouldn't let them in, and all this drama. And then I forgot what happened, because this is why I keep my notes, because sequencing in my head is terrible, and I forget stuff. So let me think of something else that happened. I'm thinking about now David. There's an issue, right? We see her arguing on the phone with David. David is saying, I guess at one point the producers asked her family to be his family to be a part of the show. He brought it up to them. He explained that she was doing dream work with Goli, and whatever religion they're in, they're very Christian, and they're from Nigeria, and their whole thing was that they don't want to be a part of the show because what she's doing with Goli is witchcraft, and they called her a witch, and she's doing voodoo. So, Tamar is arguing with him, and she's like, well, first of all, if you wanted your family to do this, why did you tell them that part of it? Why are you giving them your opinion about Goli? You've never even met her, and you could have allowed them to form their own opinion. You know what I mean? You're impressing your opinions on Goli on them before they even get a chance to make a decision, which is true. So they're going back and forth, and she's like, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it's witchcraft, or everything new to you isn't witchcraft. And what I'm realizing, so she's going back and forth, and then Goli, I think she overhears a little bit, and then the producers are talking to her on the side, like, maybe you shouldn't wear all black and this big black hat. Maybe you should put on some softer colors so you don't come off like a witch, and this whole thing. And so, she's going back and forth. So Tamar tells them what he said. And then one of the producers called David on the side and say, listen, why don't you come together with Goli and you have a conversation with her so you can understand it better? I am concerned about the fact that, I'm going to say this again, that she even has him so wrapped up in her business dealings. You know what I mean? Number one, I think that I felt like him even bringing up this conversation the way he did was because he wasn't getting enough airtime. So then when the producers were like, oh, why don't you have a conversation with Goli? It's like, okay, sure. It was so fast, right? But why does he have to approve what she is doing? It's almost like, let me speak to her so that I know that you're not out here doing something I don't approve of. Another thing I found about it was that she said, I think before this conversation, we see her coming in after the show. She was preparing for a show, and then the day after the show, she comes in and she says, like, Goli, this dream work is really working. You know, it's everything. I feel like I'm reaching my highest potential. And she announced that to the crew and staff. I think at that point he realizes that he's losing control. You know what I mean? Before it was David saved me. David is all this, da, 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 da. So now that she is trusting somebody else, now that she's giving this other person accolades, now that she's giving this other person, you know, attention, he kind of feels like, okay, she's slipping out from under my thumb. So I feel like that's where this whole thing, you know, was conjured up from him. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'm remembering the show. Oh, the beginning. We start with David meeting with Tracy's husband, right? So Tracy's been married to her husband for over 20 years, the longest. Everybody else has divorces or whatever else they had, right? They're on to their second marriages and boyfriends, whatever. So they go back to when they had the big fight surrounding, I think it was Trina's engagement. Whenever they were on that retreat in the Braxtons, they were talking about that. And I guess since then, the sisters have all been kind of estranged from each other. So the biggest rift is between Tamar and Tracy. And David said he's trying to bring them back together. And he feels like if Tamar and Tracy get back together, it'll heal the whole family. And he's probably right, because to me, they've always had the biggest issues between them. So, and it's always gotten the most escalated between them. So the husband, you know, they had a great conversation. The husband is really into David. David and him, they seem to vibe pretty well. They seem to be on the same page. The husband is like, he feels that the biggest issue happened when they were young, and they all signed a contract, and they didn't encourage Tracy to sign the contract. So she always felt like she wasn't supported by the family, like they left her, she was abandoned, and they went on their careers and left her behind. And he also says that he feels that Tracy would need the support from Tony as well. I don't know if you also remember Tony and Tracy fell out last season because Tamar took Tracy on her tour. But then when she ended up going into, you know, her dressing room would be like a back closet. It was just almost like she feels disrespected by Tamar often, because it's like, I'm your sister. Why wouldn't you make sure my accommodations are as nice as yours? Or, you know, why are you dressing in this full dressing room and have me like in the corner closet dressing? You know, she just felt very disrespected by the entire thing, unsupported. So they kind of fell out about that as well. So David invites, Tamar doesn't know that this conversation is happening between the men. And so David invites Tracy's husband and Tracy to the concert that night. And he says, sure, I'll ask her, see how she feels, but they end up not showing up. Then Tamar talks, Mona comes to talk to Tamar, and then to make sure again that she is in it. The way that she said she was, like, you know, basically you told me you were in it, you weren't going to run, and that's not what's happening. We're also not getting the footage that we need. You know, if you have things going on, be open, let us into all of that. Tamar did say, I think she doesn't want to talk so much about the family issues on camera, but Mona's like, that's what we're here for. You know what I mean? So, you know, at one point Tamar says, well, listen, I invited my family to Thanksgiving, I invited them to this, nobody showed up. So she feels like the outcast. And she said, basically it hurts. You know, she's like, how many times do I beg you and beg you and beg you to love me and to support me, and it doesn't happen? So at one point I have to stop. And then she says, I feel like, you know, it's another thing with like, I feel like you guys are having a conversation that everything is fine, and then here you come saying you're not getting enough. And she feels like she's always being penalized for being Tamar. So, you know, she does agree with Mona that she's going to open up more and stop the running and let them in, you know. So we'll see if she gives us anything else. But one thing that Mona said that was very good was she said there's always an air of sabotage around you. So it's either, so she's alluding to a couple things. Tamar, you're sabotaging this whole situation because you're always so distracted, and whenever anything comes up, you run, or you, oh, Logan, or oh, this, or you're cooking, or this and that. So you're kind of sabotaging your own success. But also she's alluding to David because he is always a negative person. Whenever she's doing something, he's on this, it's almost like she has to go through him, check through him. He's the person that's saying, oh, you shouldn't do it this way. You know, they're trying to, they gave her a life coach, Goli, to work with her, who is amazing. You know what I mean? And she seems to be very learned and aware of how to deal with stars and celebrities. She's been around a lot of them, but here he comes with the witchcraft and this and that. And I believe she said, I wish I could find my notes, because she said something like, you shouldn't even be allowing somebody to do this. You know what I mean? And oh my God, I gotta get my notes. I'll probably add a little piece to it when I find my notes. But you know, it was almost like, you know, you need to be controlling this. You need to, you know, put a kibosh on this, because this is what is sabotaging your whole life and career right now. So at one point, so then, I'm jumping around because I don't have my notes in front of me, but so back to the conversation I was talking about with Goli and Tamar. So, Goli gets very upset because David is saying that what she does is witchcraft. She could be a witch, it could be voodoo, this and that. And so you have the producers trying to dress her in like pink, like some of Tamar's clothes and everything, and it becomes too much for Goli. So Goli kind of has a breakdown. She's like, I've never had to deal with somebody else's family member like this. She is the person I'm dealing with. I shouldn't even have to deal with him. I've never had anybody come and sabotage. I've never had anybody talk about me like this. And I can understand, like, she's, very grounded, this type of person. So I guess for somebody to call her a witch and voodoo and all this kind of stuff is hurtful. You know what I mean? And it's like, who am I dealing with here? But so she's crying and the whole thing. So as when Tamar gets off the phone with David, then she goes over to Tamar, and Tamar was like, what's wrong with you, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So Goli's crying, and I don't know how to deal with this. She at one point she's saying she might want to quit. She's never had to deal with anything like this. And now I'm like, okay, now you're the life coach. You're supposed to be teaching her how to deal with different things that come up in life, how to deal with adversity, how to, use some of those coping strategies that you're teaching her. So what's going on with you? You can't be breaking down to the client and asking for her support. You know what I mean? And even Tamar at this point, she was like, listen, I don't need this right now. You know what I mean? Like, I can't deal with this. I just had to deal with David. I just hung up on the phone with him. Now I have to deal with the stuff that I'm in between all this, and I have to deal with me. And then how here you come crying. I can't comfort you also. You're my life coach. I'm supposed to be going to you. So I just find it hard that, like, of all the experience you say you've had, you have never encountered anybody who doubted this work. But I mean, I don't know. I guess it is what it is. But at this point, I'm just like, Goli, you need to pull it together, and you need to be building Tamar's confidence to deal with David. You know what I mean? And then also building your own confidence to defend what you do and your work when you have this conversation with David. You know what I mean? You can't be doing all this breaking down. If you're secure in what you do and you're confident in what you do, it doesn't matter what anybody says. Okay, you don't believe in it, that's on you, but just move to the side so you don't mess with my client. Now, client, are you going to work with me and brush all of that outside chatter to the side? If not, then we have to part ways, and that's it. You know what I mean? So I mean, it was a lot going on. And then, Goli was also like, in order for me not to seem like a witch, I have to put on her clothes. Like, it was just a lot going on in this episode. And it just made me feel like we're seeing more of David and his controlling ways and his probably borderline abusive ways. We're seeing more of this. I didn't know that she was in such a rift with her family, because even when they had little issues, it was always one or two she was always still cool with. And like David told the brother-in-law, he was like, she loves Tracy to death. And I really do truly think Tamar loves all of her sisters and her family members. I think she loves them so hard, but they can't deal with her. Like she said, me being Tamar, they can't deal with her the way she is. She is too much. She is draining. And that's what, when I look at these episodes, I'm drained for everybody working with her, because she's a lot. I'm drained for the producers. I'm drained for, you come ready to work and then you have to deal with all this nonsense. And I think she is a very anxious person. And that is that's her blockage. You know what I mean? Like she's blocking herself, and also like a loss of confidence, also the codependency. Like she has a lot going on, and she's such a talent. But it makes me feel like this is why Tony is the star, because she can cope with certain things. She can get through certain things that Tamar just is not equipped, at least at this point, to deal with. So either way, let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree. What are some of your thoughts on the show? I'm hoping I didn't miss too much, and I'm gonna look for that quote. But either way, let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.